Dear distinguished and honorable guests, firstly, I would like to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to you for this kind invitation to participate in this esteemed conference, which is of great importance both in the content of the issues it deals with and in the timing of its convening. Confronting the various security threats, trade exchange, economic diversification, and climate change are all issues that have become a priority for all countries of the world because they are common challenges. And no country can achieve progress in these issues alone, given the state of interdependence and interconnectivity between the countries of the world. The challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic was not the origin of these challenges, but it revealed the importance of confronting them collectively. On the other hand, the war in Eastern Europe sounded the alarm bells for another issue, which is global food security and securing countries' energy needs. These two vital issues have become a daily subject of discussion to politicians, in addition to the officials of the relevant international organizations. Dear colleagues, in the midst of these common challenges, discussions about strengthening partnerships are of great importance, especially those partnerships with multiple aspects, which include economic and security dimensions that stem from historical roots, including the Arab Gulf-Indian Partnership, which has its roots in a long history that extends back to the 3rd millennium BCE. The trade exchange throughout history between the Arabian Gulf and India had a great impact in strengthening cultural relations as well. Today, the Arab Gulf states host about 9 million Indian workers in various professions and areas of specialization, which are required to implement sustainable development plans in the Arab Gulf countries. On the economic level, the Arab Gulf states are India's first trading partner, as the rate of trade exchange between the two sides amounted to approximately 115 billion US dollars between the years 2020 and 2021. And on the security level, India seeks to contribute to maintaining maritime security for the Arab Gulf states. These and other issues confirm beyond any doubt the importance of developing that partnership and pushing it towards new areas. Dear colleagues, with the significance of the contents and mechanisms of achieving the Arabian Gulf Indian Partnership according to the aforementioned fields, there is a need to strengthen other paths imposed by the requirements of reality and future prospects, especially in 3 areas, namely youth, technology, and the future. On the participation of the youth level, there is no doubt that giving the new generation the opportunity to take the initiative in some fields will be an important starting point for strengthening that partnership, not only according to the official positions, but also through civil society organizations on both sides. This plays an important role and works in parallel with the official tracks to strengthen popular relations between the two sides, which would create solid foundations for societal communication. India is a model of pluralism as well as the Arab Gulf states, in turn, a model of tolerance, which is reflected in mosques, churches, and temples of different religions, as well as the establishment of the Arab Gulf states' institutional frameworks concerned with enhancing this value. And there's no doubt that young people can contribute to enhancing this value on both sides, whether through mutual visits or educational and cultural exchanges, which could create common bridges of thinking between the two sides, which means finding a wall against any tendencies of ideological extremists. It was a remarkable event that young people from the Arab Gulf countries participated in some cultural competitions in India in 2017, a trend that must be mutually developed in the future. On the level of technology, India's transformation to be the home of technology in the world, especially in recent decades, is reflected in many indicators, including the leadership of an elite group of young Indians for major technology companies in the world. Also, there are hundreds of startup companies in India in this field, which are attracting many investments, all of which are indicators that confirm that this field is an essential basis for partnership with the Arab Gulf countries for 3 reasons. The first of which being that the Arab Gulf states, countries, are rapidly shifting to e-government as one of the requirements for implementing sustainable development plans. And while technology presents opportunities in this regard, it also possesses challenges, including cyber risks that require cooperation between the two sides to confront them, especially since these risks exceed the infrastructure to affect vital facilities in the Arab Gulf states through drones, and secondly, the presence of large numbers of the Indian community in the Arab Gulf region who work in the field of information technology, which enhances the contents of the partnerships between the two sides. And third, in the light of the keenness of the Arab Gulf states to diversify sources of income, attracting foreign investments is one of those ways, which is an opportunity for Indian companies in the field of technology to work in a safe Gulf environment that includes many legislations to protect these investments and work to develop them. On the future level, future visions are based on an extended historical heritage and a current reality that imposes the inevitability. On the future level, future visions are based on an extended historical heritage and a current reality that imposes the inevitability of cooperation between the two sides. Thinking about joint future courses of action is a major requirement in the development of the Arabian Gulf Indian Partnership, which includes defining goals and objectives and ways to achieve them while identifying the most prominent obstacles. This is from an integrated strategic perspective that takes into account the facts of history, geography, and the necessities of joint cooperation in light of the keenness of both sides to develop that partnership in a way that achieves the interests of both parties in a balanced manner in light of a rapidly changing world. No region in the world will be far from its effects in light of the intertwining and overlapping interests, and it may be useful for the official joint activities between the Arab Gulf states and India to include intellectual pursuits that include youth, women, and civil society organizations for their role in strengthening the relations and pushing them towards broader horizons. Thank you all for listening, and I wish you all a successful conference. Thank you.
So good evening to all of you. We've come to the end of a very long day, and there's a dinner waiting. But I must thank all these wonderful people who've been actually the mainstay of today's conversations and today's discussions. So I think in this session, if it's okay with everyone here and with all of you, we could just contemplate and see what have we gained from our discussions today. And there might be one or two things that you felt was the most important, and we could go around. And how would you like such conversations that are on the platform, and I have to say, of the Arabian Sea Dialogue of ORF? How should we take this dialogue to be far more intensive and have a much greater effect on whatever is going on? And we know all about, so should I just kick off a little bit? If you don't, see, my learning that I would say that would be the most important is that barring our immediate South Asian neighbors, there couldn't be a closer area than the GCC in terms of distance or culture. So it's an obvious thing that we have been doing, and it has already been described how important it is politically and how many interactions there are, how trade has grown, trade will grow, and so on. But how can this be intensified? There was also a question that it has to be an engagement of attention. Now, societies, people, countries, everyone is competing for attention globally. How can this particular dialogue become far more meaningful? And whether with all of what we've discussed today, can we have several more such dialogues in a year on different topics. And I would love to hear your ideas, and if we could please start from there and then carry on.
Thank you so much. I think being the first speaker in the final session, it is good and bad. Good because people are tired and exhausted and they want you to say everything and move on. Bad, you can't keep people waiting and the dinner will be cold. So let me just say quick things. For any initiative to survive, it needs consistency and continuity, the two C's. If things stop tonight by leaving this meeting, nothing will happen. I think we need to work on consistency and continuity, and to build up the momentum. That's the first thing. And we have to work parallelly. You cannot say, I want to work in politics and be entrepreneur, and no, you have to work on those things together. Number three, I would argue to leave the cliche and old-fashioned terminologies about empowering and latter empowering. I think when it comes to debate about empowering women in the region, I think there is a misunderstanding about it, because we empowered women by increasing the number of educational women. However, we failed to offer them a better life. It's misleading empowerment. I think a real empowerment should take women and empower man. Man in our societies, in GC, in Arab world, and in India, was not empowered. Don't look at his role in politics. Man cannot defend his rights. Man cannot get his right position, a fair position. So men are suffering actually exactly as women. So I am in favor of de-victimization of women. Victimization of women, I would like the debate to move on beyond that and move on toward to de-victimize men and women and move into both to move to better life, because they have to move together. Because why I am focused on this, because we don't want that trap which old nation now they felt in for years. Number four, I think there is no doubt that any debate today, we have to complete it with the sentences about the West. We can do this there, we can do it. Can we focus on local? Can we bring strength within the local and capitalize on others, number two, rather than trying to say if we move to the West, we will be in better shape. If we don't focus on localization of ideas, strengthen the ideas, empowering the ideas within the context. And if these societies, if this region, with all of this wealth, cannot work on localizing and empowering the ideas within its own geopolitics, who will sell it? Who will buy it? We have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe we have the momentum if we focus on localization with a look to the world to strengthen this, but not necessarily to lead our initiative. And final thought on this, I think there is no doubt that we are living in a level of uncertainty. And this level of uncertainty is increasing day by day. And I'm sorry to say this, but it does increase actually minute after minute. I think the more this increasing, the more pressure on economy, security, energy, everything in the world. I think this region is part of this. I think we need to have sort of immunizing system, sort of immunization, so we can minimize the impact of all of this. Because this, it seems, as a wave, and it has, I would say, it's similar to COVID, but we need to have sort of, defending system within our bodies, our political bodies, social bodies, economic bodies, so we can reduce and minimize the impact on the region, which could be a good adventure.
Thank you. So, would you like to go next, Pankaj, as to what we can do with this dialogue and how could we take it further?
Thank you, Rajesh. I took three messages or points that I thought I gathered and I thought we need to work on going forward. And I think that is that this dialogue needs to happen more on a youth level, the next generation, not at our level. Because there is a certain amount of ignorance on appreciation both ways. You know, does the next generation youth or the so-called unicorns of India appreciate the power of the Gulf or the resources in the Gulf? Similarly, do the next generation in the Gulf appreciate the new India and the growing India and the power of new India? I think there's a I've put down three things. There's a bit of ignorance, there's a misconcept, and there is a disconnect. And I think these three areas need to be addressed going forward. States in India are as big as countries otherwise. You know, we don't need to really look at the national and the central government and engage with the Niti Ayogs of the world. I think the small SME cooperatives within the states of India are big enough to satisfy the appetite of the countries in the Middle East. Let the states come in and market and look at their own individual initiatives as countries do from overseas. Okay? Number three, energy and resources are going to be the binding force of the two people. The two people of the region of the Gulf and the people of India. Look at energy, look at resources, and I would say, I'm not saying any resource, but the resources available in the Middle East and the resources available in India, or the technology available in India, and how does this come together to find the new atom or the new proton to make a binding relationship between the two countries again? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really liked your point about bringing the attention to each other and an appreciation, and that in a way might sound even surprising, considering how many people from India work in all the Gulf countries and possibly at the senior most levels of corporations or advisors to government departments. But clearly it needs to be done. Madam.
Well, I would like to first start by thanking the organizers. I mean, today was a very, very well organized forum. So thank you very much for inviting us and being part of this event. Coming back, Rajesh, to your question, for me, this forum today was a gem. We all polished it today. I mean, the relationship of Oman or a relationship of the GCC with India, it's nothing new. It's a very, very old relationship which we all appreciate and cherish. Now, if we had to do it all over again, what would I expect? I would expect maybe, first of all, more focus. Today, I felt it was a bit too general. I mean, we talked about too many things. So we all go back and it's there full. We don't know what is actually the core of this forum. So maybe if we had to do it again, I would like it to be more focused. We talk about one topic or two topics, but we give all our hearts to it. Number two, maybe I will disagree with His Excellency Pankaj. I mean, with due respect, yes, I agree with you. Next time we want the youth or we want the younger generation to be part of this forum, but also we need experience. I mean, experience with youth, I feel the outcome will be much better than what we are here today. Number three, I mean, also I'm very happy that at least for we as women panelists, for the one before, we are very prompt. We already linked ourselves to a WhatsApp group and we are taking this further. So I think we need a clap for that. So that is it. I mean, maybe I would like to say thank you, Sheikh.
But I must say thank you very much. Those are very wise observations, and the speed with which women work is obviously much faster and more focused and more capable and so on and so forth. So, for you.
Well, I'm very tempted also to reply to the feminist notion that we start our panel here with. But I do agree. I mean, we have to find another name for, to counter feminism for men, because I do believe that we need to empower both men and female in our society, especially in the labor market. And I think there is a lot to be done, not just in the Gulf, but also here in India. And this is something, it's important. But to come back to the main question about what what I come out from this session. To start with, when I arrived to this discussion, I knew only that our relation is important. The two regions has to have, we have very long history, but I couldn't pinpoint where to start with and where to end with. I think this forum created the base for us to carry on in the future, and it is very timely. So, and I appreciate, of course, Ambassador Suri to initiate this conversation, which I think it is a work in progress, because if we don't follow as research center, the people will just leave us and carry on with what they are doing, and they are advancing very fast. It's important also to understand and to put what we shared here in this discussion in context. The areas of cooperation, the areas of discussion is very wide, starting from security to a labor market to business to all sorts of cooperation. What connect us is more than what we see as barrier to develop this relationship, and I think we should address that point where we can make it a reality, not just studies that will be put in the shelves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Navdeem, because you've been the one whose actually ideas have brought us all together, and as just has been mentioned so eloquently, that it's really now up to us and those who've participated and those who've also been in the panels to see how this is really expanded on. So I'm sure your ideas will be really helpful.
I think I get disproportionate credit, particularly since it's Jebel and the team who have done all the heavy lifting on this. But look, I think this was a conversation waiting to happen. And we, if anything, we are perhaps a few years behind the curve on putting together a forum like this. Because it was the first time and because we didn't know what exactly would be of interest to our interlocutors, we cast the net wide. And rather than choosing either or, we said both, which meant that we ended up having a fairly large menu, which has kept us here for all of 12 hours, which is considerable and credit-worthy that we're all still here. But it's also given us an opportunity to gauge which are the areas in which there's more interest and which are the points on which we can focus much more sharply as we go forward. I would like to think that this modest beginning that we've made today gives us the confidence that this should be the first of a regular series of interactions. It perhaps reinforces my faith, something that I said in the morning, that it should be Mumbai, where we have these conversations and, in a sense, restore that traditional connect that Mumbai had. But because for me, in a sense, Mr. Babu, who's very busy with his phone, I should say that his comment this morning, that this is the first time that he got an invitation to come to a dialogue in India, made it worthwhile for me that we had taken this initiative, because it clearly pointed out to a gap in what we were doing in not reaching out. And to hear the candidness with which Mr. Sultan Barakat, Dr. Sultan Barakat and Mr. Babu were able to speak, again gives me confidence that we are on the right track to be able to have conversations where it's okay to disagree. We don't have to be on the same page on everything. And those disagreements or contrarian opinions are as meaningful as everybody singing from the same hymn sheet. But finally, because we are a think tank, we're in the business of learning through conversations, understanding best practices, getting to do something with each other, and finally, making policy recommendations to government. And in his comments this morning, Ambassador Harshvardhan Shringla said something interesting. He said that currently we have a dialogue of India with the GCC at the foreign ministers level, and perhaps we should upgrade it to the level of heads of state or heads of government. I would add to that even as we have the dialogue at the level of the foreign ministers, while we wait for it to be upgraded, perhaps on the sidelines of that, we should institute the Arabian Sea dialogue, where independent thinking people can get together and converse like this. And if we wanted to increase the level of ambition, assuming that we have the appetite to be more ambitious, then I would say, what prevents us next time around from having separate 3-hour sessions where there's an India GCC startup dialogue, and there's an India GCC women's dialogue, and there's an Indian GCC perhaps green transitions dialogue, and so on. And we put that together. This is something that we do on the sidelines of BRICS, we do on the sidelines of G20, and perhaps the time has come for us to start thinking in those terms, in terms of our conversations with the GCC as well, because it is such a crucial relationship for both sides. So I think we've got enough of a future homework that we've created for ourselves by virtue of today's conversations. So enough to chew on.
And I think you've given a pretty good idea, and probably most people agree here. So before we close, and thank you to everyone here. Okay, sure, please do. I was going to the audience to ask what, they're just as much all. Yep.
I think what's really matter is that these kind of forums are about ideas, and think tanks are about, I call them the business of ideas, creating ideas, bringing ideas to the table, and then taking those ideas to the lab, and then taking them to the expert in the field, and then try to transfer them to something real. I think what's important today, and your great job on organizing this forum, is actually bringing all of those ideas. There were great ideas today. I think the important step is where we can take these ideas actually. What will be next step? Because think tanks are not to solving the problem of the world. They are to bringing ideas. Ideas can be taken by people who are in the field, and then they have to come up with the solutions, everyone based on their specialty and fields. I think bringing ideas is a great achievement, and you have done it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Please, would you like to contribute to how this can continue? You've really given your time for the entire day, and what would be your suggestions? Anyone? Sir.
I support Ambassador Suri's suggestion. I'm very bad.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think what would be, we started in Mumbai, which is great, but we don't have to stay in Mumbai. I think maybe we can, just to support your idea for having more specialized, focused discussions and so on, let's also try and meet in the Gulf and host you, a diverse group from India coming to the Gulf to discuss those areas.
Thanks,
Anyone else?
I also support the idea of Her Excellency Sheikh Lujaina on specialization, a theme for a conference, maybe maximum a couple of themes. And I see your point about having one common theme and then special interest groups in separate sessions. But I would very much appreciate maybe a single or two themes for the whole event that allows a greater interconnection, and then the people who are at policy-making level can see the whole scene. From my humble experience, I've seen conferences that have a single or two themes that are interconnected, that are priority, can actually get things more going because you have everyone focused on that one single theme, and the leaders who have to carry the message to policymakers are able to attend the full event, and interconnectivity between participants and speakers is bigger that way. I've not seen really the working groups get out a lot of results, although they do get the dialogue going.
Yeah.
Forgive me, one more idea. It's a proposal or a suggestion for ORF. I think it would be great to do a study, maybe with the participation of other centers from the Gulf, on mapping the Arabian Sea. What are the threats? What are the issues? We could collectively create a document that spells out the risks, the threats, but also all the wonderful opportunities that we discussed today. And then maybe take it as the basis for our next meeting, which then specializes in subgroups and so on.
Thank you.
Just to take it from Professor, what you mentioned over there, and I fully concur, we are a think tank. We came over here to exchange ideas. We're not a conference where we came up with thematic points, etc. So let it remain being an ideas lab. Let it remain being a confluence of minds which come in and come out with various opportunity, and make it happen, and then probably create a white paper from, let it go downstream into further something, churning out something more. But let it be an ideas lab. Let ORF churn out ideas.
I think we've really got a lot of inputs from this session, how to take it further, and depends on everyone here. In my many decades of either chairing meetings or chairing panels, I may have started late, but I always end on time when it's there. Thank you, everyone.